What's going on, you guys? How you doing tonight? God bless you. Thank you for coming to this episode here on Sons of God Ministries, where tonight we have a very important topic to talk about. Now, I want to let you guys know here on this YouTube channel, I am going to start making videos like this. Matter of fact, we can actually talk more about this in the comments, whether you guys want to have like a voting system, whether we pick two topics and one votes, one percentage, and the highest vote will actually go to that video for the week, that topic for the week. Here's the thing. Tonight, this episode in which we're going to get into tonight, most of you have probably never heard this before. But I think this is very important to understand because there's a big misunderstanding on who Israel is. Okay? Now, as you can see in the image, you see a man standing on top of a mountain, standing over a bunch of mountains, it looks like. We don't know who this man is, but one thing I can tell you this. What we are going to talk about tonight is Mount Sinai and the understanding of who was there at Mount Sinai. Was it just Israel? Was it just the Jews? Who was it? Is it the people that proclaim themselves as Hebrew Israelites? Is it the people that proclaim themselves as Ashkenazis? Is it the Sephardics? Is it any of these different races? The Scottish? Who is Israel? Well, after tonight, I think you're going to have a clear answer on that through the biblical scriptures, through the biblical understanding, because we are going to jump into that very topic tonight. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So here we go. So, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to read 1 Corinthians chapter 10, the first piece, okay? Now, mind you, who was 1 Corinthians written to? It was written to the church. It was the organized church. Who's the audience of 1 Corinthians? The Gentile Christians living in Corinth. The Gentiles are anyone that's not Jewish. To be Jewish means just to be a part of the tribe of Judah. You have 11 other tribes other than just Judah. Okay? So let's look at this. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1. Moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant how that all of our... See that? It just goes right over it just like that. What the heck? There we go. How that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. Wait a minute. What? Wait, what? Moreover, brother, let's read that again. Moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. Wait a minute. Is this the father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Is this just a certain people's fathers? Or is this talking about all our fathers? Because here's the thing. As was already mentioned, the book of Corinthians was written to a Gentile audience. So if it's written to a Gentile audience, and Paul says right here that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea, they were all there at the Exodus. I think this should be case closed, honestly. But we can't wrap it up that quickly, so we're going to keep on going with some evidence, all right? So what we can see here is that the all our fathers is also speaking about the Gentiles. It's not speaking about just some specific group. Now, this is important to understand. The reason why I say that is because, for instance, we got a channel right here, a website right here that talks about it, but they're not making a lick of sense because they're separating themselves from the chosen people of God. Watch this, okay? Thus, Christians should understand the stories in Numbers as a warning against unbelief and against putting the Lord to the test. In fact, Paul teaches that the Israelites were rebelling not just against God, but specifically against Christ in the wilderness. Okay, we'll Let's go up a little bit. All right. Okay, check this out. In 1 Corinthians 10, the Apostle Paul uses Israel's actions in Exodus and Numbers as a negative example for the church today. In doing so, he follows the practice of the Psalms, as we shall see. So what this website is doing here, I'm not attacking them. What I'm trying to show you is this. They're creating a separation to say, oh, Israel was at Mount Sinai because of Exodus and Numbers, but we weren't there. They're creating a separation to sit there and say that the church wasn't there at Mount Sinai when Paul says that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. Now, this is important to understand because when we start to get into this, we start to realize that in the Exodus, there was a mixed multitude of people that left there from Egypt. Okay? Now, with that understanding, this is what is known as the heir of Ra. The heir of Ra are the people that left with the Israelites from Egypt into the wilderness, to Mount Sinai. Okay? So, you cannot separate the church from Israel. Not just spiritually, but genetically as well. Let's keep on going. Around 700 BC, the prophet Isaiah prophesied the Assyrian captivity. Okay? The Assyrian captivity did take place under the hands of Sennacherib. All right? Sennacherib was the Assyrian king that actually did not destroy the city of Jerusalem, but he destroyed the 10 tribes of Israel and scattered them. Remember this, that after King David reigned and Solomon took his place, Solomon was the last king to reign and rule in a united kingdom of the 12 tribes. But after Solomon, his son Jeroboam rose up and the kingdom split because of the idolatry that was going on within the kingdoms. Therefore, the tribe of Judah and Benjamin took the southern kingdom with Jerusalem, and then the other 10 tribes took the northern kingdom. So in the Assyrian captivity, it was not the southern tribes, Judah and Benjamin, that went into captivity. It was the northern tribes. The northern tribes went into captivity, and when they went into captivity, they were actually swallowed up by the Gentiles. So now the tribes of Asher, Naphtali, Dan, Reuben, all of these tribes, these different, all 10 tribes were swallowed up by the Gentiles. And if you don't believe me, the Bible tells you straight up what happened in Hosea 8:8. Read it right here. Israel is swallowed up. Now shall they be among the Gentiles, as a vessel wherein is no pleasure. Huh? They shall be among the Gentiles as a vessel wherein is no pleasure. So Israel is going to be swallowed up, and they shall be among the Gentiles. Wait a minute. That's kind of interesting. Because didn't we just say that the apostle wrote to the Gentile Christians? And now doesn't it make more sense that there's a reason why he said all of our fathers, even to the Gentile Christians, that all our fathers were under the cloud? Why did he say that now? Because all of Israel was the Gentiles. Paul was not just going to some foreign people. Paul was going to the other 10 tribes of Israel. Jesus dealt with the Jerusalem, Judah, and Benjamin, those tribes, whereas Paul was going to deal with the other 10 tribes of Israel. Now, this is important to understand because what we begin to realize is that it's not about race. It has nothing to do with race. You see this Hebrew Israelite movement right here? We're not going to jump too much into this. And I just want to let you know this. I'm not being a bigot when I say this. But this right here is an example of bigotry. A people that say that they're the chosen people when they have a lack of knowledge. And guess what? What does the Bible say about a lack of knowledge? Let's go ahead and... Actually, I'll just say it from the top of my head. Hosea chapter 6 verse 4, which says, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge," a lack of gnosis. And because of this, because of bigotry, because people do not realize who Israel is, they do not realize where it really comes from, they start a racist agenda. And through it, they don't realize that all people are Israel. It doesn't matter if you're a Hindu, a Buddhist. It doesn't matter if you're Irish or Scottish. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, all our fathers were there under the cloud, and all passed through the sea. Now, with that understanding, with what is going on here, why is this important? Because this gets into a very important topic when it comes to the New Testament scriptures being opened up. If all people were there at Mount Sinai, and all people were there when Moses went up to receive the commandments, what happened when he came back down? They were worshiping a golden calf in Exodus chapter 32. In this chapter, when Moses comes down, they were worshiping a golden calf. Moses takes the tablets, he breaks them, and he goes back up the Mount Sinai. Okay? Now remember, in the first tablet commandments, he went up to Mount Horeb, the mountain of light. Whereas in the second, when he broke the tablets and he went back up to Mount Sinai, he received another set of commandments because the people were not ready to receive the truth. So, where does that leave us? That leaves us in what Stephen has to say right here. Acts chapter 7, before he gets stoned before the religious leaders and the mob, this is what he says. To whom our fathers... interesting. Our fathers? Our fathers would not obey. Doesn't that ring a bell on what Paul just said about how our fathers were baptized in the cloud? They would not obey, but thrust him from them, and in their hearts turned back again into Egypt, saying unto Aaron, make us gods to go before us, make us Elohim. For as for this Moses which brought us out of the land of Egypt, we know not what has become of him. Verse 41, and they made a calf in those days and offered sacrifice unto the idol and rejoiced in the works of their own hands. Then God turned and gave them up to worship the host of heaven, as it is written in the book of the prophets. O you house of Israel, have you offered to me slain beasts and sacrifices by the space of 40 years in the wilderness? Yea, you took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Remphan, figures which you made to worship them, and I will carry you away beyond Babylon. Our fathers had the tabernacle of witness in the wilderness as he had appointed, speaking unto Moses, that he should make it according to the fashion that he had seen, which also our fathers that came after brought him with Jesus into the possession of the Gentiles, brought him with the possession of Joshua into the possession of the Gentiles, whom God drave out before the face of our fathers unto the days of David. Okay, so let's go ahead and look into this. Let's break it down a little bit more. So according to Stephen, he says they were given up to the fallen host of heaven after the calf was made, in the golden calf. You see, in the first tablet commandments, this was supposed to be it. It was supposed to be, this is what we live by. This was going to be the goodness. This was going to be it. But we all screwed up. Not just Israel. We all were there and we all screwed up. Therefore, we all had to be ushered back in. Now, this is important to understand because when it gets into the Mishnah, the Midrash, the different books in the first century, what we begin to see is that even they taught the same thing. Check this out. Midrash teaches that we were all present at Sinai. All of our souls were at Sinai for that experience of connection with our source. Every Jew who has ever been and will ever be. Yes, including those who choose Judaism. If you join yourself with the Jewish people, then your soul was at Sinai too. We were all there at Sinai in that moment of mythic time. You see, what ended up happening is it was brought down in truth and in witness at first. But we were the ones who decided to go backwards. Not just a certain people group. We all decided to go backwards. Now, doesn't that make more sense why Paul had to go to these people called the Gentiles? Because Israel was swallowed up by the Gentiles. They became the Gentile people. And with that, what we begin to understand is that all of it starts to connect. Check this out. There are many people in the Jewish community, for example, those with disabilities or Jews of color, who feel as if they are guests in their own community. They don't feel that they are totally welcomed, although they would like to feel at home and have much to contribute. A midrash often studied on Shavuot, Pentecost, the holiday of the giving of the Torah, presents the idea that all Jews, past, present, and future, stood at Mount Sinai to receive the revelation of Torah, collectively, each in a way that they could understand it. This is the ultimate story of inclusion. Check this out. And not only with you have I made this covenant and this oath, but rather the generations that have yet to come were also there at that time. Okay. But it wasn't just the Jewish people. It was also all of Israel. Remember, the Jewish people is just the tribe of Judah. That makes up one tribe. All Israel was there. Because even the of Ra were there. Okay? Now, what's important to understand about this is that the heir of Ra were not Israel at that time. The heir of Ra were Gentiles. But what ended up happening is, in the Assyrian captivity, Israel was swallowed up by the Gentiles. So when Paul came along and he spoke the gospel to the Gentiles, he was actually speaking to the 10 tribes of Israel. Because it was never about a certain race, a certain people group. It's always been about all of humanity and those who join themselves to God. I hope that this makes sense. I hope that you are starting to see this. So don't let race divide you. Don't let people sit there and say that, well, I'm chosen and you're not. No, we're all chosen. All of our souls were there at Sinai. And like Paul even says, that the law is a schoolmaster that led us unto Christ. You see, in the letter of Paul, what ended up happening is that they all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. But this was before they fell to the golden calf. This was before they were overthrown in the wilderness. At first, they were with Christ, because when Moses came down from that mountain, he gave them true commandments. But because of the stubbornness of our hearts, that we needed to be under the law as a schoolmaster, making something spiritual that was supposed to be, making something physical that was supposed to be spiritual, we fell into the trap of duality when we were supposed to be one. So with that, I pray that this helps you. I pray that this was a blessing. If you would like to support this ministry, please go to sonsofgodministries.org. The link will actually be in the bio. If you feel like this has helped you, if you feel like this has been a blessing, you can actually, well, never mind that. Well, actually, let's go and check it out. All right, never mind that. My certificate expired or something. Let's put it this way. I'll put my PayPal down in the link. All right, if you guys want to give, you don't have to. But the thing is, we could use your help. We could use your hands of protection. You know, the thing is that if you see these books behind me, I'm going through all of these books. This is my new collection of the Zohar. It's not what people think. Let's put it that way. But I pray that this was a blessing. I pray that this episode helped you guys. I pray that this gives you more insight to the understanding of the Holy Scripture. And now that we use Scripture to justify everything we had to say, no one can stand on anything else. Because the truth will always be the truth. And every knee shall bow, and every tongue shall confess that Jesus is Lord. Just like they were there, and we all were there at the mountain to receive the commandments of light, but instead we chose the darkness. God bless you guys. I love you. You have a great night.